My boyfriend and my best friend were the most bitter rivals on the entire campus. It all started when he splashed spicy barbecue sauce on her hand. She shot to her feet and slammed a plate of bacon strips right in his face. "Can't you even watch what you're doing? Let me fix your eyesight for you. You deleted my thesis out of sheer carelessness back then, and you're still the same reckless mess now that you're dating her. How much grief is Clara gonna put up with you?" Ethan Hayes' jaw clenched, a vein pulsing at his temple. That was ancient history. Do you have to drag it up every single time we fight? My chopsticks froze mid-air. This had played out 100 times before. They'd bicker, explode, storm out. I'd always step in to calm them down. But they never failed to brush me aside, like I was the outsider butting in on lovebirds' fight. There's no point finishing this meal. Serena Carter shot to her feet, grabbed her bag, and stormed for the door. I started to stand, but my chair jolted as Ethan shoved past me. He reached the door first and caught her by the arm. "Enough already. You gonna hold that stupid grudge for the rest of our lives?" "Why shouldn't I? You made me rewrite my entire thesis and never even apologized." "Fine. I'll make it up to you with a gift. Happy? Then give it to me. Promise you'll drop it after?" "Swear it." "I'll swear it the second you hand it over." Ethan let go of her arm, turned on his heel, and marched straight into the jewelry store next door. Minutes later he stepped back out, holding a Tiffany & Company limited edition Valentine's Day mermaid necklace. "There. Now quit with the attitude, or I'll make Clara stop talking to you." "Then who'll you pick fights with?" Ethan snapped the words, but his hand softened as he reached around her neck to fasten the clasp. Serena huffed, a proud little pout on her lips. "Really, Hayes? You think this cheap little thing makes up for everything?" I stood frozen outside the barbecue restaurant, 1,000 tiny needles stabbing through my chest. Every heartbeat carried a dull, blade-like ache. That necklace was the Valentine's gift Ethan had promised me year after year. He'd put it off again and again. First year, he said Serena threw his wallet in the trash so he couldn't buy it. Second year, he said she smashed his phone. Third year, he said she locked him in the equipment room. And today, Valentine's Day, it was around her neck. The warm fumes of the barbecue rolled out behind me, but I felt ice cold all over. I remembered the rumors from winter of sophomore year. People said Ethan and Serena had been close once, until the thesis incident tore them apart. He was the stubborn campus golden boy who never apologized. She was the fiery, spoiled rich girl with a short fuse. Rumor had it Ethan only asked me out to make Serena jealous. But then he'd waited for me outside my dorm every single day, brought me pastries and hot lattes without fail. When I spiked a fever in the middle of the night, he'd carried me 10 whole miles to the hospital and stayed up all night in the hallway. Dark circles hung under his eyes the next morning. He'd been so good to me, so good I'd thought the rumors were just rumors. Now I knew the truth. None of it was real. It was all a show, all to get under Serena's skin. "Clara." Serena spotted me and rushed over, looping her arm through mine. "Tell him he's in the wrong. He made me rewrite my thesis and thinks this lousy necklace fixes everything? Wait till he starts treating you like this too." A wave of nausea rolled over me. I stepped aside and pulled my arm free. Ethan noticed my face and hurried to explain. "Clara, they sold out of the necklace today. I'll get you one next time, okay? I just didn't want her ruining our date with her drama." "Ethan Hayes, don't you dare pin this on me." Serena exploded instantly. "You're the one who spilled sauce on me. What did you expect? Can't you just let it go?" They started bickering all over again. Serena stumbled back a step and shoved me hard in her fluster. I lost my balance and slammed my lower back into a lamppost. The sharp metal edge dug into my spine, a dull ache crawling up my back. I caught myself on the pole, palm scraping against the gritty metal. Neither of them looked back. Ethan grabbed Serena's arm, growling that she'd get herself hit by a car if she kept this up. She wrenched free and snapped that she'd haunt him forever if she died. Their voices tangled together, loud and heated, like the sizzling, boiling sauce inside the restaurant. I almost laughed. For 3 years, I'd been nothing but a spectator dragged into their little show. I'd thought I was the leading lady, delivering my lines for 3 whole years. Now I realized I was just a pawn, something to make their game more interesting. The bitterness rose in my chest, then faded into quiet calm. My phone buzzed in my bag. I pulled it out. It was Mom. "Clara, honey, have you thought about that exchange program in London? Your dad's been holding the spot for you. You leave in 7 days." I stared at the 2 silhouettes tangled under the street lamp, and spoke in a steady voice. "Mom, I'm going." "Really?" Her voice jumped, then softened. "All right, baby. I'll book your flight for 7 days from now." My parents had paved the way for me to study abroad before I even started college. I'd put it off for 3 years, all because of Ethan. I hung up and started walking back to the dorm. The noise of the barbecue restaurant faded behind me, muffled like I was underwater. The street lamp stretched my shadow long and thin, lonely at my heels. I'd made up my mind. If their world never had room for me, I wasn't going to keep playing my part in their show. Back at the dorm, I turned off my phone and slept straight through till morning. When I woke up, I saw dozens of missed calls from Ethan. He cornered me downstairs, apologized for 10 minutes straight, and dragged me to the homecoming talent show to make up for ruining our date. He led me into the auditorium and sat me down. I watched the performances half-heartedly. He pointed out each act to me, until Serena stepped on stage to dance. She walked out in a white tulle dress, spotlight catching her like a proud swan. Ethan sat up straight, fingers tightening unconsciously on his knee. Then he scoffed, sharp and dismissive. "What is that? Her form's terrible, rhythm's all off. She's got some nerve entering a competition like this." The whole time, his eyes never left her. Not once. I stared at the line of his jaw, a lump rising in my throat. So that's what he meant by making it up to me. He was making it up to himself. He'd wanted to see Serena dance, and I was just the excuse to be in the audience. I remembered the track and field meet sophomore year. I'd run the 800 m, and Ethan was waiting at the finish line. When I crossed, he was staring at his phone. I tapped his shoulder, and he looked up and said, "You're done already? Here, I got you water." I didn't want to know what he'd been looking at back then. Not anymore. Just then, some guy I didn't know leaned in. "Hey, you here alone? Can I get your number?" "Sorry, no." "Come on, don't be cold. Where's the fun in that? Move." I turned him down 3 times, but he kept pushing. I glanced at Ethan out of the corner of my eye. He'd glanced over once, lazily, then looked right back at the stage. "Ethan." I said his name, voice tight with a tremor I couldn't hold back. "Aren't you gonna do something?" He sauntered over slowly, slung an arm over my shoulder, and laughed. "My Clara's the most loyal girl there is. I trust her not to cheat on me." Before I could say anything, a commotion erupted behind us. Serena walked out of the backstage changing room, having swapped her tulle dress for a strappy mini. The mermaid necklace glinted at her collarbone. A group of guys swarmed her, holding up their phones to ask for her number. Ethan's face went dark with rage. He strode over in 2 steps and slapped the nearest guy's hand away. "Back off. All of you." Serena pushed him away. "What is your problem? They're just asking for my number. You forget what your deadbeat ex did to you." Ethan's jaw was set, sharp and fierce, an intensity I'd never seen in him before. "You let losers like this hang around you, and you'll be crying to me in the middle of the night again, won't you?" Serena tilted her chin up and smirked. "So what? Nobody asked you to care. You. Me what? I thought you never wanted to speak to me again? They started fighting again. In the shoving, Serena's strap slipped down her shoulder. Ethan froze, then quickly pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her. What are you, airhead? Walking around dressed like that? Serena rolled her eyes, burrowing into his jacket. Mind your own business. But her fingers tightened around the collar. She didn't push him away. I stood at the end of the hallway, all the strength draining out of me. The anger was worry. The worry was fear. The fear was care. Wind gusted in from outside the auditorium, cold enough to make me shiver. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. I turned and walked straight out. Footsteps chased after me. Ethan grabbed my arm. Clara, don't get the wrong idea. I just don't want her hanging around with those scumbags. He spoke fast, but his eyes darted back toward the hallway. I don't care what happens to her. I just don't want her bad influence rubbing off on you. I looked at him. The panic in his eyes was real. But how much of that panic was for me? If I left, he'd lose his excuse to be near her. Whatever. I let out a long breath. I'm going back. Ethan swallowed, like he wanted to say more, when Serena's voice rang out from behind him. Ethan. Where the hell did you go? Those guys are back. His fingers went rigid on my arm. Then he let go and ran back. I stood in the empty hallway, watching his back disappear into the light. Her shouts and his retorts echoed back, loud and lively, like a two-person show. I looked down at my arm. Where he'd grabbed me, a faint red mark lingered. But I couldn't feel the pain anymore, just a numb, dull ache. I pulled my coat tighter and walked back to the dorm alone. I got back to my room and flipped on the light. The fluorescent bulb flickered twice before coming on, illuminating the scattered things on my desk. The mug Ethan gave me, the one with the cartoon bunny he said looked like my front teeth. The scarf he'd knitted me himself, lopsided and messy stitched. I pulled a big trash bag out of my drawer and started tossing everything in. I went faster and faster, sweeping things in, scared I'd stop and overthink it. But the memories came anyway, uninvited. When he was chasing me, he'd brought me breakfast every single day. In winter he'd tuck an oat milk latte inside his sleeve to keep it warm, grinning when he saw me. Every girl in class said Clara Bennett was lucky as hell. I'd thought so too. I'd thought I was the one fate had picked out. He'd pulled me into his arms and announced, like he was doing me a favor, Clara, you're so sweet and steady. I'm the lucky one. Looking back now, all that kindness felt forced, performative. It was all for Serena. I was nothing but a pawn in their little game. Because I was sweet, I was steady, I was easy to push around. I was the perfect buffer, the perfect audience, the perfect wallflower. And I'd sat there in that role for 3 whole years. I blew out a long breath, tied the trash bag tight, and dropped it outside the door. Next morning was volleyball class. I changed into my gym clothes and walked out to the field. Ethan was standing by the equipment room, a faint smile on his face. He pulled 2 iced boba teas from behind his back, his usual way of making things right. Clara, about yesterday. I don't want it. I walked right past him. His smile faltered. He followed after me. Come on, I got them special. 30% sugar, no ice, just how you like it. I stopped at the meeting spot and didn't look at him again. The PE teacher blew his whistle and told us to pair up to practice tossing the volleyball. Ethan stepped right next to me. Clara, let's pair up. He held the ball, demonstrating how to set it, how to aim. Don't lock your wrist. There you go, like this. He tossed the ball to me. I reached for it and missed. It bounced off his nose, leaving a red mark. He rubbed it and laughed. It's fine, it's fine. Let's try again. Then Serena walked over, a smirk on her face. Clara, why are you pairing up with him? He's so careless, he'll mess you up. I'll practice with you. She was talking to me, but her eyes were fixed on Ethan's hand on my arm. Serena, you talking trash about me again? Ethan let go of me and turned to her. You looking for a fight? What, can't handle the truth? I'm looking out for my best friend. You're all thumbs, remember? You deleted my thesis back in the day, you gonna ruin her volleyball grade too? You. She grabbed the ball and ran. Ethan hesitated for half a second, then chased after her. Get back here. She ran a few steps and threw the ball at his shoulder. He picked it up and threw it back. She yelped and ran faster. He chased, she ran, the ball flying back and forth. The whole field echoed with their yelling and laughing. I stood there, holding my ball, heavy in my hands. I didn't toss it for a long time. I'd seen this scene 100 times before. Our first date freshman year, Serena said she'd tag along to vet him for me, make sure he doesn't take advantage of you. Sophomore year at the amusement park, I wanna come too. I promise I won't be a third wheel. Every time it was, I'm looking out for you. Every time they left me standing there alone. I looked away, tossed the ball up, and caught it myself. Tossed, caught. Tossed, caught. The ball thudded dully against my palm, like a heartbeat. The bell rang. The PE teacher walked over, rapping his clipboard against his palm. Clara Bennett. You're the only one who still hasn't got the hang of this. 10 laps is punishment. Now. I nodded. 400 meters per lap. 4,000 meters total. By the 5th lap my calves burned. By the 7th my vision blurred. I tripped and fell, scraping my knee on the rubber track. It stung, hot and sharp. The other students whispered and snickered. I pushed myself up, half expecting Ethan to step in and explain. But he was all the way across the field, fighting over a volleyball with Serena. He didn't even glance my way. They chased each other, laughing, the sunset stretching their shadows into one long, tangled shape. I kept running. Every bend of my knee sent a jolt of pain up my leg. But somewhere in my chest, the ache finally faded. Like a string stretched too tight for too long, finally snapping. Everything went loose. Nothing pulled at me anymore. Their laughter drifted over on the evening wind, faint and muffled, like hearing something through cotton. I finished my last 2 laps, rinsed off my scraped knee at the faucet, and walked back to the dorm alone. Next afternoon I had no classes. I sat by the window in the library, alone. Ethan burst in, spotted me, and marched over. Clara, come on, we have to go. He grabbed my arm hard, practically yanking me out of my chair. Serena fought with her parents and ran off to do that death motorcycle race. The abandoned track behind campus, those mountain roads, all those sharp turns. Someone died there just last month. I was numb already. I stopped walking. What does that have to do with me? Ethan's eyes were bloodshot, his brow furrowed with a panic I'd never seen before. Clara, I know we hate each other, but she's still your best friend. She's always had this temper, you know how her parents are, always yelling at her. She acts out when she's upset. What if something happens to her? She won't listen to me. Only you can talk her down. He didn't give me a chance to argue. He dragged me off campus and hailed a taxi, frantic. The cab pulled up at the end of the track. The roar of motorcycle engines was already deafening. At the far end of the track, a huge ramp jutted out over a drop dozens of meters below. Serena was at the front of the line, leaned low over her bike like a bullet. When she came tearing around the curve, Ethan lost it. He climbed over the guardrail and jumped onto the track, standing right in her path with his arms outstretched. Serena. Tires screeched. She slammed on the brakes. Rubber burned, white smoke billowing up. She skidded and fell, but only got a few scrapes. Ethan ran to her, red-eyed and furious. Are you insane? You fight with your parents once and you throw your life away? Do you even care about yourself? His hands shook as he dabbed at the tiny cut on her forehead, gentle as if she were something fragile that might break. I'd seen that look 100 times in 3 years. The angrier he yelled at her, the more he cared. I stood in the middle of the track, less than 5 meters away from him. It felt like an ocean separated us. Then another engine roared. A second motorcycle came tearing around the curve. The rider hadn't expected people in the middle of the track. He swerved hard. Even with the brakes slammed, the momentum sent me flying. I hit the ground hard. Ethan. My voice came out thin and sharp, like something snapped clean in two. Ethan started to turn. Then Serena ripped off her helmet, red-eyed, and yelled at him. What else am I supposed to do? I'm just this angry, messed-up person who pushes everyone away. Hey, he said, turning back to her. His voice was low, rough. I'm here. Take it out on me if you have to. Tears streamed down her face. She punched him in the chest. Why couldn't you just be nice back then? Why'd you always have to fight? They held each other. The crowd grew around them. Someone murmured, that's her boyfriend, right? Risked his life to stop her. That's real love. I lay on my side on the hot asphalt. Tears and something warm trickled down my nose into my ear. All the pain gathered in my chest, like someone had reached in and squeezed until it crumpled, cracked, shattered to pieces. I heard myself laugh, a tiny, breathless sound. I laughed until blood rose in my throat, making me cough. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. I closed my eyes and let the burning sunlight carry me away. When I woke up, all I saw was the white hospital ceiling. My head throbbed like someone had stirred my brains around. N4 was stuck in the back of my left hand. Ethan walked in carrying an enamel basin, a white towel draped over the edge. You're awake. He set the basin down on the nightstand. Doctor said you've got a minor fracture. You'll need to rest for a few days. Serena's in the next room. She's fine, just scraped her knee. Doctor bandaged her up. He sat down, peeled an apple, cut it into neat little pieces on a plate, and stuck a toothpick in each one. He pushed it toward me. Then he poured me a glass of warm water, testing the temperature before handing it over. Clara, don't be mad at her. That's just how she is. She even went bungee jumping once, jumped off this huge bridge. Total handful, honestly. I'll have a talk with her later. Can we not talk about her? My voice came out rough, like sandpaper. I want quiet. Ethan froze, a guilty look crossing his face. When did you get so stubborn, he said. You used to be so sweet. That's why I asked you out, you know. Don't pick up her bad habits. Ethan, do you think I'm an idiot? I sat up, staring him dead in the eye. I'm sweet and steady, I said, voice cold and tight. So I deserve to be left standing alone at the restaurant? To get slammed into a lamppost while you two fight? To get hit by a car while you... Clara, are you seriously accusing me of? He shot to his feet. The chair legs scraped loud against the floor. It was a life or death situation. Even if I hated her, I couldn't just stand by and let her get hurt. Would you have felt good if something happened to her? Hated her? I looked up at him and laughed, bitter. You hate her so much you chase off every guy who talks to her? You hate her so much you risk your life to stop her from racing? You hate her so much you come running whenever she cries in the middle of the night? Ethan, why have you never hated me like that? The air in the room went still. Only the drip of the 4 broke the silence. He stood by my bed, opening and closing his mouth. On the 5th try, he forced out, Clara, you're overthinking, just rest up, okay? I'll take good care of you. Then he added, but Serena's still upset. I'm just gonna go check on her for a minute. I'll be right back. Get out. I grabbed the plate of apple pieces and threw them at him. They hit his chest, white flesh scattering across the floor. He swallowed, hand already on the doorknob. You're still hurt. Don't get worked up. I'll send a nurse in to look after you. The door clicked shut. A moment later, I heard the next room's door open down the hall. Serena's voice drifted through, muffled and nasal. What are you doing here? Where's Clara? She's asleep. Oh, stay a while, okay? My leg hurts. Okay. The 4 dripped, slow and steady. 1 drop. 2. 3. I buried my face in the pillow. I couldn't feel anything. All I smelled was bleach. Cold, sharp, impossible to ignore. It got dark outside. The curtain wasn't fully closed. A thin strip of hallway light seeped through. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days. Ethan showed up every day, pushing his way into my room. He brought chicken noodle soup, peeled fruit, wiped my hands and face with a damp towel, careful around my hip injury. I never looked at him. Never spoke. He stopped bringing up Serena. He'd sit by my bed for hours, sometimes the whole afternoon. He played the part so well. But now, watching him slump over my bedside, I only felt like laughing. He'd been exactly like this when he was chasing me 3 years ago. Back then I'd thought I was the luckiest girl in the world. His kindness had filled every day of my life. Now I felt nothing. Because all that kindness had been for an audience. On the 3rd afternoon, footsteps sounded outside my room. A group of loud, rough-looking guys asked the nurse which room Serena was in. The door to the next room slammed open. Less than a minute later, Ethan's voice exploded with rage. She broke up with you. You think you can show up here and make her pay your gambling debts? Get out. Another guy yelled back, just as loud. Who the hell do you think you are? This ain't your business. I'm her worst enemy. Got a problem with that? Nobody gets to mess with her but me. Not losers like you. Then came the crash of furniture, the thud of fists, the screech of chair legs on tile. The next room descended into chaos. After a minute, the guys stormed out, yelling insults. Their footsteps headed my way. One of them paused outside my door. Hey, boss. That's his girl, right? I've heard about her. The door slammed open. 3 guys crowded in, shutting the door behind them. The lead guy had blood on his face, grinning at me. He hits me, I hit his girl. Fair's fair. What do you want? I shrank back against the headboard. Ethan. I yelled, before I could stop myself. The next room's door opened and shut. But Ethan's footsteps went the other way down the hall. Serena, your hand's bleeding. Let's get you to the nurse's station. Your man doesn't even care about you. Look at him, he's too busy protecting her to even glance your way. The lead guy stepped closer, grabbing my chin and tilting my face up. Cute. You should dump him and stick with me. Don't touch me. I shoved him hard, but he grabbed my hair and wrenched my head back. Playing hard to get? Fine, we'll do this the hard way. 2 of them held me down. 1 clamped a hand over my mouth. They shoved me roughly into the corner. My still-healing injury tore open, and white-hot pain shot through me. Helplessness and terror flooded my body. I fought as hard as I could, but I couldn't break free. In that worst moment, I remembered Ethan wrapping his jacket around me, holding me tight. I'll keep you safe like this, he'd said. No one's ever gonna hurt you. And I'd believed him. Stupid, naive me. The door suddenly flew open. A doctor in a white coat stood there, holding a clipboard. He pushed his glasses up. What is going on in here? This is a hospital ward. Which one of you is the patient? The guys cursed and let go, filing out. Their footsteps faded. The doctor came over, checked my and pressed a cotton swab to my blown vein. He frowned and said he'd have to restick it. I shook my head. No. I'm checking out. Your fracture hasn't healed yet. I'll sign the waiver. I take full responsibility. I swung my legs over the bed. My left hip screamed in pain, and my knee buckled. I held onto the bed frame until the wave passed. The bowl of soup sat untouched on the nightstand. The apple plate was still neat, every toothpick in place, not one piece eaten. I walked out of the hospital building. The sky was overcast. I took a cab back to campus, dragged out my suitcase, and packed everything up neat and tidy. Then I closed the door and walked downstairs. The sunset painted the whole sky red. I looked out at the campus, and for the first time, I didn't look back. I blocked both Serena and Ethan. Then I hailed a cab to the airport. Ethan Hayes. We were done. From now on, you can put on your little show by yourself. Meanwhile, Ethan walked Serena back to campus. Just then, Serena's roommate ran up to them from the gate, breathless. There you are. Serena, I found out why your thesis files got deleted. Serena turned. I thought Ethan deleted them? Her roommate shook her head, leaning in to whisper. It was your ex. You dumped him when he was chasing you, and he held a grudge. He snuck onto your laptop and deleted the original files, then framed Ethan for it. Serena's face shifted. Surprise, then a tight press of her lips. She bit down, then let go. I was wrong about all that. I'm sorry. The words hung in the air between them. She'd yelled at him about that thesis every time they fought, from sophomore year till now. Yeah, Ethan said, hands in his pockets. Something soft and itchy stirred in his chest, like someone was tickling a spot he'd forgotten about. 3 years of fighting, and she'd finally said she was sorry. He didn't know what to do with himself. But under that feeling was something else. Something heavy, bittersweet. Like eating something sweet that leaves a sour aftertaste. That night, he leaned against the balcony railing after his shower, staring at his phone. Clara's contact was at the top of his messages. He ran a hand through his hair and typed, "How are you feeling? I'll come see you tomorrow." The phone pinged twice. A red exclamation mark stared back at him. He held the phone closer, squinting. When had she started blocking people? So what if he hadn't turned around that day? He'd gone to the hospital to take care of her, hadn't he? Peeled fruit, brought her water, changed her dressings, he'd done everything right. She was being so dramatic. Must have picked it up from Serena. He tossed the phone onto his pillow and rolled over. Next morning, Serena called before he was even awake. Come downstairs. He threw on a hoodie and went down. Serena was standing by the dorm, holding a bouquet of white flowers. The thesis thing is over, she said, shoving the flowers into his arms. Let's stop fighting. For good. Ethan froze. The crinkly paper scraped his chin, cool and crisp. He'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. But now that it was here, he couldn't bring himself to take that step. What about Clara? Serena frowned, mouth tightening into a line. I'm giving you an out here. You gonna take it or not? He held the flowers, thumb pressing into the paper. We're already together. If we go back to how we were, how do I explain this to her? Maybe we should wait. Wait for what? She stepped closer, eyes sharp. Just break up with her. She's always been so meek. She won't make a fuss. So meek. The words were light when she said them, but they landed heavy in his ears. He thought of Clara's face. She'd always been meek. But the meek girl had blocked him. 3 days, no reply. His throat felt tight. Serena stamped her foot. If you keep this up, I'm actually gonna be mad. He looked at her furrowed brows, the faint pink at the tips of her ears, and found himself saying, okay. The moment the word left his mouth, he saw Serena's lips twitch up into a smile. She pushed the flowers harder into his chest and turned to walk away. Ethan stood there holding the bouquet, and smelled them. Soft, sweet, with a faint bitter edge. He'd waited 3 years for this, for her to apologize, to make the first move, to say they could stop fighting. But now that it was here, that itchy soft spot in his chest felt numb. Like a fist held tight for too long, finally going loose and tingly. His feet started moving before his brain caught up. He was heading toward the hospital. Wait, where was he going? Clara was still in the hospital. He had to tell her what? That he and Serena were together now? Or tell her to wait, that he hadn't figured it out yet? But he kept walking. When he got to the nurse's station, he was breathless. Room 307. Clara Bennett. I'm here to pick her up. The nurse glanced up, flipped a page in her chart. She checked out yesterday afternoon. Ethan blinked. Why didn't she tell me? He pulled out his phone to text her. Red exclamation mark. She'd blocked his number too. Something tight twisted in his chest, then loosened again. She probably went back to the dorm to rest. She was quiet, hated hospitals. Tomorrow was the class group photo. She'd be there. He'd ask her then. Next afternoon, the class gathered for the group photo. Ethan stood in the boys' line, glancing over at the girls' side again and again. Clara wasn't there. Her spot was empty. The academic advisor put an X next to her name on the list. He went through the photo shoot on autopilot. Afterward, Serena tapped his shoulder. I got all dressed up today. Take a picture of me. He took her phone and snapped a few half-heartedly. Serena grabbed it back and scowled. You got the lighting all wrong. These are terrible. Take them again. Another one. Still bad. Third, fourth, fifth. Serena's voice got louder and sharper. Why is your hand shaking? Focus. Ethan, can you even take a picture? The sun burned the back of his neck. A random thought popped into his head. Clara would have said they were nice. Even blurry, even crooked, even backlit where you could barely see her face, she'd lean in and grin and say she loved them. Hey. What's with the attitude? Serena reached for the camera. Her elbow knocked into his hand. The phone slipped, screen first, onto the concrete. A spider web crack spread across the lens. Ethan bent down and picked it up, staring at the crack. He said nothing. Serena yelled behind him, "It's your fault for dropping it." He turned and walked away without a word. He sat down on a bench by the field and stayed there till the graduation photos were done. Clara never showed. He finally called her. It went straight to voicemail. Ethan. Where'd you go? Serena ran after him. You bailed in the middle of everything. What is your problem? He turned to her suddenly. Clara hasn't come back to campus. Has she texted you? Serena blinked, then stamped her foot. Why do you care about her? You said you were done with her. She hasn't texted me either. You sure she hasn't? Duh. Why would I lie? Ethan looked her in the eye. Something heavy he'd been pushing down suddenly rose up. Before, they never went more than 3 days without making up. She'd always reach out first. Ask if he'd eaten, if he was warm enough, if he was still mad. How many days had it been now? It was like she'd vanished into thin air. He stood up, chair legs scraping loud. Something's wrong. I'm done here. He took off running toward her department building. It was her favorite lecture class. She'd never missed it once in 3 years. The classroom door was ajar. Ethan pushed it open. The fluorescent lights blared. Dozens of faces stared blankly at him. He scanned the room, panic rising faster and faster. He regretted it. Regretted saying that stupid okay to Serena. The word had just slipped out, and now it rang in his ears, loud and endless. He had to find Clara and tell her. Tell her nothing had happened between him and Serena. No holding hands, no hugs, no kisses. He ran to the girls' dorm next. The RA waved him up with a smile, teasing him about being irregular. Clara's single room was unlocked. He pushed the door open. Dust hit his nose, the dry, empty smell of a room that hadn't been lived in for 2 days. Her bed was made bare. Everything on her desk was gone. The power strip hung unplugged. Only a broken pen tip sat in the pencil cup. A girl stood in the doorway, Maggie Raid, Clara's neighbor. "Where's Clara?" "I don't know. She came back, packed her stuff, and left. Didn't say anything to anyone." "Where'd she go?" "I really don't know." She nodded at the trash can in the corner. "But she threw a bunch of stuff away. Maybe you can find something there." Ethan followed her gaze. His breath caught in his throat. In the trash can was a photo. He stood in the middle, one arm around Clara's shoulder, the other grabbed by Serena's hand. All three were smiling. Clara's eyes crinkled, one faint dimple showing. Under the photo were 2 silver rings, the matching pair he'd bought the day he asked her out. At the very bottom was a gray hoodie. He'd left it there once, never picked it up. She'd kept it, worn it when it was cold. He'd teased her about stealing his clothes. Now all of it was in the trash. Ethan crouched down, hand hovering over the bin. He didn't dare touch anything. She didn't want any of it. None of it. Not even him. The thought hit him, and a cold tingle ran down his spine. Panic crashed over him, sharp and huge. He jumped up and ran out of the dorm, down the tree-lined path. 100 memories flashed through his head, every one of her smiling. He ran to the academic advisor's office, gasping for air. "Ma'am, do you know where Clara Bennett from the finance cohort went? Did she file a leave of absence?" The advisor looked up at him and shook her head. "I believe Clara went on exchange abroad, but I don't have the details. That's private student information. I can't look it up for you." Ethan slid down the doorframe until he was crouching on the floor. All he heard was his own heartbeat, loud and heavy in his temples. She was gone. She was really gone. Ethan's legs felt like jelly when he left the office. He leaned against the wall for a second to catch his breath. Serena was waiting for him by the stairs, leaning against the railing. She still held the bouquet. "Where'd you run off to now?" she said, frowning. "We were supposed to get dinner. You just vanished." He glanced at her, voice still rough. "I was looking for Clara." "Clara, Clara, Clara." Serena shifted the flowers to her other hand, annoyed. "She's gone." The advisor said no one knows where. "Why do you keep looking?" "I have to break up with her properly," he said, staring at the window at the end of the hall. The sycamore leaves tossed in the wind outside. "I owe her that." Serena's expression softened, a small smile tugging at her lips. She looped her arm through his. "Fine, fine. We'll find her first. Let's eat. I'm starving." He didn't push her away. Didn't answer. They walked down the stairs side by side, their footsteps echoing down the hallway. Graduation day was blazing hot. The chairs on the field burned through the seats of people's pants. Ethan sat in the boys' section. A classmate clapped him on the shoulder and joked around. He nodded half-heartedly, eyes scanning the crowd. Looking for anyone who'd known Clara. Her project group, her neighbors, the girls from her club. As soon as the ceremony ended, he bolted. He grabbed person after person, asking the same questions. Have you heard from Clara? Did she reach out? Did she say anything before she left? On the 15th person, Serena ran up behind him in heels and grabbed his wrist. Ethan, she hissed, trying not to yell. She's gone. Why do you keep chasing after her? You didn't even stand next to me at graduation. My parents were watching. Ethan wrenched his hand free. Hard enough that Serena flinched. I have to talk to her, he said. Don't stop me. Serena's face fell. Her mouth tightened and her eyes glistened. She was quiet for a few seconds, then shoved her bag into his arms. Fine. Go look. Then carry me back. It's 102 degrees out. I can't walk. He didn't say anything. He took the bag and kept walking through the crowd. He asked a few more people. Nothing. The sun burned the back of his neck. Sweat dripped down his temples, soaking his sleeve. Finally he gave up and walked back to her. He crouched down. His head was a mess. Hot, tired, and something else, something heavy and tangled in his chest. Serena rambled on his back about the flowers people sent her, about being front and center in the graduation photo, about dinner plans that night. He mumbled yes and ahas, but all he could see was Clara. Sophomore summer, walking back from the library in weather just like this. She'd pulled a tiny umbrella out of her bag and held it over his head, on her tiptoes. It was too small. Half her shoulder was in the sun. He'd tilted it back toward her, and she'd pushed it right back. You need it more. I don't burn. She'd walked next to him under that tiny umbrella, their arms brushing. Warm, soft. At the dorm she'd folded it back up, grinning up at him. Library again tomorrow? He hadn't thought much of it then. Now the memory made his chest ache. You coming shopping tonight? Serena was saying. All the girls are going. He mumbled an agreement. He didn't know what he'd agreed to. When they got to the dorm, Serena slid off his back. A group of her friends waited by the entrance. They swarmed her, chattering about the mall, about graduation gifts, pulling her toward the campus gate. Serena waved back at him. Hurry up, Ethan. You can carry the bags. He followed, slow and heavy, his head a fog. He walked behind the group of girls, watching Serena's back. She was laughing and gesturing, poking her friend's shoulder, loud and bright. Exactly the same as she'd been 3 years ago. She'd never tilt an umbrella toward him. Never wait for him in the library for hours. Never jot down every offhand thing he said in a notebook. If they got back together, it'd just be the same cycle all over again. Fighting, screaming, cold shoulders, her breaking things, him yelling, her blocking him apologizing, making up, then round two. Who was he actually supposed to love? The thought startled him. But it wouldn't go away. It rose up like a bubble in water, bigger and bigger. He zoned out all the way to the mall entrance. Serena tugged his arm. Hey, Space Cadet. Let's go inside. He snapped back to it and followed her in. Serena was laughing with her friends when her face suddenly dropped. A guy stood across the hallway, shaved head, thick gold chain around his neck. Serena's mouth twisted. She muttered something under her breath. Ethan recognized him immediately. The ex who deleted Serena's thesis. Go get his phone, Serena said, shoving him forward. He deleted my thesis. I want to see what else he's hiding. Ethan, go get it for me. He walked over. The guy tensed up the second he saw him. Ethan held out his hand like a robot. The guy handed over his phone, unlocked. Ethan looked down. His fingers went rigid. On the screen was a video, shot through a crack in a door. He recognized the room number. 307, Clara's hospital room. 3 guys crowded around her bed. One held her chin, one covered her mouth, one pinned her wrists down. Her head was pressed back against the wall. She shrank as far into the headboard as she could go. Her mouth was covered, but her eyes were wide, wide with a fear he'd never seen before. Her fingers dug into the sheets, nails almost breaking through the fabric. One leg kicked out then went limp. She curled into herself, small and broken. Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. His knuckles whitened. The video kept playing. She cried. Tears slid down her temple into her hair. They pried her mouth open, pulled their fingers out, and she coughed, shoulders shaking. A tiny, ragged sound escaped his throat. Like something was stuck there, too tight to move. Ethan stared at the screen, frozen to the spot. What did you do to her? He dropped to his knees to grab the phone off the floor. His kneecap slammed into the tile. His whole body shook. Talk. The guy backed up, hands up. We didn't get to do anything. A nurse showed up and chased us off. We didn't touch her, I swear. Ethan stood up. He threw the punch before he even thought about it. His knuckles connected with the guy's cheekbone with a dull, heavy thud. The guy stumbled back, slamming into the glass railing of the mall walkway. He slid down to the floor, blood pouring from his nose. Serena's friends screamed. People grabbed at his arms, trying to pull him back. He struggled once, twice. Arms wrapped around him from behind. His chest heaved, rage boiling over. Stop it, someone yelled. He stood there, gasping for air. His knuckles were split, raw and red, blood smearing his skin. The guy on the floor cursed and held his face. Ethan glanced at him once, then slowly pulled his own phone out of his pocket. His hands were still shaking. He misdialed 3 times before he got it right. Hi. I'd like to report an assault. False imprisonment. He gave the address. Said there was security footage from the hospital ward as proof. The guys were led away, yelling insults over their shoulders. He didn't hear them. All he heard was his own heartbeat, loud and thudding in his temples. The hallway went quiet. He stood there, still holding the guy's phone. The video was paused on that frame, her curled up in bed, mouth covered, tears streaking her face. He thought about that afternoon. He'd been in the next room with Serena. Saying it was okay, saying don't cry, saying I'm here. Her muffled cries had seeped through the wall. He hadn't heard them. Or he had. And he hadn't turned around. Is that why you called the cops? Serena's voice came from behind him, sharp and shrill. For her? Or for me? Ethan didn't turn around. Ethan. I'm talking to you. Drop it, he said, voice rough. Drop it? She stepped around to face him. You stand there staring at a video of her for 10 minutes. Do you even notice I'm here? Who do you actually love? The phone screen went dark again. He rubbed his thumb back and forth along the edge, skin heating up. Answer me. He opened his mouth. You only asked her out to make me mad, right? Serena's voice rose. Everyone knew it. You got mad at me, so you went after her. And now you're telling me you. Does any of that matter now? He spun around to face her. Serena flinched, stepping back. Does it? His voice shook. She was in that hospital room, pinned down and scared, and we were in the next room fighting. She got hit by a car at the track, and I was holding you. She slammed into a lamppost, and I was too busy yelling at you to even look. Ethan? Does none of that bother you? He took a step forward. She stepped back. We were wrong from the start. We shouldn't have, he stopped, chest heaving. We shouldn't have done that to her. Serena stared at him for a long time. Then she laughed. A sharp, cold little laugh. She asked for it. 4 words. Light, careless. Something shattered in Ethan's ears. What did you say? She asked for it, she repeated, chin tilted up. She knew we had history. She inserted herself into it. Sweet? Steady? If she was so smart, she would have left a long time ago. Enough. I'm just saying. I said enough. He yelled it. The word echoed down the hallway, bouncing off the walls. Serena's mouth snapped shut. Her eyes glistened. Ethan looked at her. That face he'd stared at for 3 years, fought with for 3 years, hated for 3 years, wanted for 3 years. Standing there saying she'd asked for it. Cold, cruel. He didn't recognize her. Or maybe he'd never really known her at all. I was wrong about you. He turned and walked away. Serena called his name, 3 times, loud and desperate. He didn't stop. The sun was blinding when he stepped outside the mall. He pulled out his phone and opened Clara's contact. Her profile picture was grayed out. He typed, "Where are you?" Red exclamation mark. He typed, "Clara, I know I messed up." Red. He typed, "Please. Just tell me where you are." Red. He crouched down on the steps outside the mall and buried his face in his arms. That night he went back to the dorm. The balcony door was open. The sky shifted from deep blue to black. He sat at his desk, phone screen glowing, stuck on that red exclamation mark. He went down to the convenience store and bought 2 beers. Halfway through the first one, he typed, "I know I was wrong." Red exclamation mark. Second line, "Those guys from the hospital are in jail. I found out everything." Red. Third line, "I'm so sorry." Red. The fourth line he typed and deleted, over and over. "Just tell me where you are. I won't bother you. I just need to know." Red. He finished the second beer, then grabbed 2 more from the fridge. The phone light burned his eyes. He squinted and typed 1 more line. "For 3 years I thought you couldn't live without me. That's why I took you for granted. Now that you're gone, I realize." His phone buzzed. An incoming call. "Serena." He answered. "What did you mean back there?" she said, voice thick. "What are we, Ethan?" "We're done," he said. Silence on the other end. "Are you insane?" she said, louder now. "You're breaking up with me to go find her? You're just gonna leave me like this? Think whatever you want." "Ethan." He hung up. The screen went back to his unsent message. He finished typing and hit send. "Now that you're gone, I realize it was never you who couldn't live without me. It was me." Red. He stared at those 3 words for a long time. The phone went dark. He hit the power button. Dark again. Hit it again. Wind blew in through the balcony, making the little wind chime jingle. Soft, light. Clara had given him that wind chime once. "Hang it on the balcony," she'd said. "When the wind blows, it'll be like someone saying hi." Serena had knocked it off once, broken 2 of the chimes. Clara had knelt down and picked up the pieces, saying it was fine, they could still hang it up. It still hung there. It still jingled in the wind. But the girl who'd said it was fine was gone. He set his phone face down on the desk and pressed his forehead to the back of his hand. If he could find her again, he'd make everything up to her. Every last bit. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." He said it over and over in his head. No red exclamation marks. But no one was there to hear it. After that day, Ethan never answered Serena's calls. Never replied to her texts. She sent screen after screen of messages. At first he'd glance at them. Then he stopped opening them entirely. His dorm door stayed closed. The curtains stayed drawn for 2 whole days. Takeout containers stacked up on his desk, chopsticks soaking in cold soup. Every morning he woke up and texted Clara first thing. Good morning. Read. It's cloudy today. You'd like it. Read. The ginkgo tree outside the library turned yellow. Remember you picked a leaf and pressed it in your book? Read. Once, those little messages had been her thing. Every morning she'd send a photo of the sky. Pink sunrise, bright blue afternoon, heavy gray clouds. With a line, weather like this today. Bundle up. He'd barely replied back then. The occasional yeah would make her happy all day. And the long messages. He dug out his old phone from a box, turned it on. The chat history was still there. He scrolled up and up, every single one from her. It's getting cold. Did you bring a jacket? Don't be stubborn. They have honey garlic ribs at the dining hall today. I got you a plate. It's on the library table. Don't forget. You stayed up gaming again, didn't you? I'll save you a seat tomorrow morning. Sleep in a little. He scrolled faster and faster. The phone light glinted in his eyes, bright then dim. He'd barely replied to any of it. Back then it had annoyed him. Too much, too clingy, too much fuss. Now he knelt on his chair and read them over and over, unable to delete a single one. Later he went for a walk around campus. The back row by the window in her favorite lecture hall was empty. She'd drawn a little bunny on the desk with white out. A new student had covered it with tape. He knelt there and picked at the tape for ages, his nail worn down raw, until he finally got it off. Underneath was the lopsided little bunny, with 3 tiny words next to it, Ethan Hayes. His name. She'd drawn it while he sat next to her scrolling his phone. She'd laughed and said don't look, and he hadn't. Now he knelt there staring at it, and every stroke of the pen felt like a slap to the face. One of the bricks on the steps by the field was cracked. She'd waited for him there once. He'd been 40 minutes late. She'd sat there reading, then stood up and brushed off her pants when she saw him running, smiling and saying she'd just gotten there too. Liar. She was 40 pages further into her book. They'd taken a photo under that ginkgo tree. His arm around her shoulder, her grinning and holding up a peace sign. He still had that photo on his phone. He looked at it every day, until the screen was smudged with fingerprints. Every second there hurt more. But he couldn't make himself leave. She was everywhere. He sat under the ginkgo tree and texted Clara, I'm sitting where you used to sit. Read. I'm such an idiot. I had you and I threw it away. Now you're everywhere I go. Read. Please reply. Just one word. Read. His phone buzzed. Not from her chat. From a friend. A photo. His fingers shook as he opened it. A London street. Red phone booth. Gray sky. Yellow leaves lining the road. A girl stood by the booth, side profile, ponytail blowing in the wind. Clara. Ethan stared at the photo. His heart stopped for half a second, then hammered so hard he could hear it. He jumped up and ran back to the dorm. He threw his closet open and stuffed clothes into a suitcase, then dumped them all out again to fold them properly. There was a knock at the door. Serena stood there, eyes red and puffy, gaunt, like she'd lost weight. Where are you going with that suitcase? He ignored her, keep packing. You're going to find her, aren't you? Her voice shook. She's gone. She's out of our lives. Why does she still have to be everywhere? Ethan's hands stilled. He turned to look at her. She's out of our lives, he repeated. You said that. You still think she was the extra one, don't you? Serena blinked. You know exactly how you treated her before she left. She left because of us. Because neither of us ever cared about her, Not really. He zipped up the suitcase. Serena, no one in this place ever truly cared about her. Not even me. She was right to leave. Tears spilled down Serena's face. What about you? You're leaving too? Yeah. He picked up his suitcase and walked past her. She reached for his arm, but missed. He pushed open the dorm door and stepped into the sunlight. The fall wind was cool on his face. He pulled out his phone and looked at the photo again. England. She was there. He was going to find her. In the taxi, he stared out the window at the passing streets. One thought looped in his head: she'd left without saying goodbye. Did that mean she couldn't face him? Did that mean she still cared? He pressed his cheek to the cold window. The sky outside was gray, just like the cloudy photos she used to send him. He closed his eyes. The plane rumbled as it took off, his ears popping. I'm coming, Clara. I'm coming. On the other side of the world. London Heathrow Airport. Fall was damp here. Wind gusted through the gate, and I hunched my shoulders. I'd forgotten to pack a scarf. Mom spotted me first and hurried over, wrapping me in a hug and draping a coat over my shoulders. You look so thin. What happened to you? She cupped my face, eyes glistening. Dad rolled the suitcase behind us, clapping me gently on the back. Come on. Car's outside. Dad drove. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror every now and then, telling me I could sleep if I was tired. I stared out the window at the passing streets. My mind was blank. Empty. When we got home, Mom made me a bowl of noodle soup. I ate 2 bites and said I wanted to go register at the university. Right after you land? Mom frowned. Rest first. Go tomorrow. I'll go today, I said. Get it over with. She looked at me for a second, then nodded and took my bowl away. The university was huge. Stone buildings, arched doorways, people sitting on the lawn reading. I followed the signs with my registration papers, until I came to a long staircase. My suitcase was too heavy. I bent over to catch my breath. The suitcase slipped and went tumbling down the stairs. It bounced off 2 steps and flipped open, clothes spilling all over the steps. I stood there, suddenly exhausted. Then someone bent down and picked up my scarf. Pale hands, long fingers, knuckles defined. He folded it neatly and set it on the suitcase, then bent to pick up the rest of my things. I looked up as he stood. Amber eyes, long lashes, sharp features, a soft shadow under his brow. Did you fall? Chinese. Stiff, heavily accented, each word enunciated like he was still learning. I shook my head. He smiled, lifted the suitcase, and set it down by my feet. Then he asked in English if I was a new student, which department I was in. I told him my supervisor's name. His eyes lit up, same supervisor. His name was Asher Graham. British Chinese, grew up abroad. Barely spoke any Chinese. He carried my suitcase down to my dorm and stopped at the door, hands in his pockets, said we could walk to class together if I wanted. I said okay. And we did. Every morning he waited for me downstairs, holding a hot cocoa. The first time he handed it to me I froze. I didn't know what you'd like, he said. I got this. If you don't like it, I'll get something else tomorrow. I took it and said nothing. But the next day, he brought the same thing again. We sat next to each other in lectures. He took notes fast, slanted handwriting, English mixed with a little Chinese. When I zoned out, he'd tap my notebook gently with his pen and say, "Here," nodding at the blackboard. We studied in the library together too. He sat across from me, glancing up every now and then. If I turned a page too loud, he'd slide me a note with a little smiley face drawn on it. A month passed. Fast. Faster than I'd thought possible. Fall hit full force. The leaves turned gold. They crunched under my shoes when I walked. One afternoon we left the library and the wind picked up. He walked next to me, then stopped and took off his coat, draping it over my shoulders. "This," he said, the English smooth but the Chinese words slow and careful, "can we take this to the next step?" I looked up at him. He was looking down, lashes long, the tips of his ears pink. I stepped closer. He pulled his hand out of his pocket and brushed his fingers against mine. Held it there. I let him take my hand. I said yes. He smiled. A bright, warm smile, one faint dimple showing. He leaned down and brushed a quick kiss against my hair, then pulled the coat tighter around me and tucked my hand into his coat pocket. The wind blew between us, cool and sharp. I walked forward, leaves crunching under my shoes. The empty place in my chest felt softer. Not full, not yet. But warm. Friday night, Asher said he was taking me somewhere. I asked where. He shook his head, mysterious, said I'd see when we got there. We drove 40 minutes and pulled up in front of a row of red brick houses. He pulled the keys and led me down a side alley, pushed open a narrow door. Inside was a small Chinese restaurant. Neat tables and chairs, calligraphy on the walls, a fake bamboo plant in the corner. The whole place was empty. Just us. Asher took off his coat and draped it over the back of a chair, tied an apron, and disappeared into the kitchen. He poked his head out a second later. "Sit down." "Almost ready." I sat by the window and watched him move around the kitchen. He peeked out at me and grinned, a little smudge of flour on his nose. I smiled back. When he brought the food out, the plates were hot. He set them down with a cloth pad. "You said you wanted lemon shrimp," he said, sitting across from me, chin propped on his hand. I practiced for a week. I froze. I'd mentioned lemon shrimp 2 weeks ago, in the library. We'd been flipping through a food magazine. I'd pointed at a page and said it looked good, that I hadn't had good lemon shrimp in forever. He'd said he'd remember. I'd thought it was just a throwaway line. I'd had enough of those in my life, people saying they'd remember, and then never following through. He stood up and poured me a bowl of soup, handed it over. The white bowl had tiny blue orchids printed on the rim. "Try it," he said. I picked up a shrimp and took a bite. Sweet and sour sauce wrapped around tender shrimp, bright lemon zest hitting my nose, a tiny kick of spice cutting through the richness. I said nothing. I ate another one. He smiled across from me, eyes crinkling, watching me eat. His amber eyes glowed in the warm light. "Good." I nodded. I picked up another shrimp and suddenly my throat felt tight. I couldn't name the feeling. Someone had taken one offhand thing I'd said, held onto it for 2 weeks, practiced for a whole week, and made a whole plate of it just for me. It settled warm and soft in my chest. Not heavy. Just warm. Like holding a mug of hot tea on a cold day. He didn't push me to talk. Just poured me more soup. It was late when we left. The wind was colder than before. Streetlights glowed amber, tree shadows swaying on the ground. I hunched my shoulders. Asher stopped next to me and took off his coat again. "It's too cold," he said, wrapping the coat around me and crossing the sleeves over my chest. "We'll walk back like this." The coat still held his warmth, wrapping around me like a hug. I looked up at him. He was looking down, our faces close. His breath fogged in the cold air, brushing my forehead. "Stop it," I said, pushing his chest lightly, voice muffled. "People are staring." He laughed, thought I was shy, and tightened the coat around me. "Let them stare. Come on." He walked me wrapped up in his coat, our bodies pressed close under the fabric. His arm rested on my shoulder, warmth seeping through my shirt. The streetlights stretched our shadows long, tangled together like one person. I walked, and the corner of my mouth tugged up. Then I lifted my head. Across the street, a man stood there. Thin. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, dark circles under his eyes. Like he'd been drained of everything. He stood there swaying a little in the wind. He held a bag, strap slipping off his shoulder, hair messy. Ethan Hayes. He stood in the fallen leaves, staring at me. Across the street, I was wrapped in another man's coat, held in his arms. The streetlight shone down on him. I could see every flicker of his face. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. 2 rough words scraped out of his throat. Clara. Asher felt me go rigid. He leaned down. Who is that? I didn't look at him. I stared at the eyes across the street, eyes that looked shattered, bright and broken. My ex. Asher frowned, stepping forward to put himself between me and Ethan. Want me to make him leave? No. I said it so calmly I surprised myself. Just ignore him. Let's go. Asher glanced at me, then nodded. He tightened the coat around me and kept walking. We walked right past Ethan. He reached out a hand, fingers almost brushing my sleeve. I didn't stop. His hand closed around my wrist. I froze. Asher walked another step before he noticed I wasn't with him. He turned back. Ethan held on tight, fingers digging into my bone. His hands were ice cold. Once they'd been warm, sweaty from basketball, and I'd teased him about how clammy they were. Clara. His voice was rough, cracked, like something stretched too tight had finally split open. I looked up at him. He was so thin. Sharp jawbone, dark circles, sunken eyes. You have nothing to say to me? He stared at me, lips trembling. I looked at that gaunt, broken face. And I felt nothing. Nothing at all. Like watching a stranger ask for directions, then walking away without a second thought. Nothing. His shoulders slumped. Clara. Let's go. Asher stepped beside me, wrapping the coat fully around me, putting his body between Ethan and me. I'll handle this. His hand rested on my back, warm and steady through the thick coat. He glanced down at me, amber eyes calm, and nodded. Told me to go on up. Go inside, he said. I'll come find you when we're done talking. I stood there. Asher took a step forward. Ethan still hadn't let go of my sleeve. They stood face to face, half a meter apart. Asher was half a head taller, looking down at him, expression flat. Let go of her, Asher said, his Chinese still stiff. Ethan didn't move. Asher, I said. Go on ahead. I need to talk to him. Properly. Asher turned to me, brows furrowed. He looked like he wanted to say something, then closed his mouth. He stared at me for a few seconds, then at Ethan's hand on my arm, then nodded. Text me when you're done, he said. If you don't, I'm coming back down. He took 2 steps, then turned back and readjusted the coat on my shoulders. I stood there under the street lamp. Ethan still held my wrist. Let go. He didn't. I pulled harder. He gripped tighter. Then he looked down and saw the red mark his fingers had left, and yanked his hand back like he'd been burned. He stuffed his fists at his sides. The streetlight fell over both of us. Our shadows stretched long on the ground, separate, never touching. What do you want from me? A flicker of hope crossed his face, pale and bright for half a second. His mouth opened and closed, like he couldn't believe I was actually talking to him. Okay, he said. Just, don't shut me out completely. His voice was still rough, urgent. He took a half step forward, then stopped, like he was scared I'd run. I didn't move. The streetlight hit his face. He rubbed at his eye with his knuckle, and I saw his hand shake. I know I messed up, he said, words tumbling out fast, like he was scared I'd walk away any second. All those times, all 3 of us together, I ignored you. The necklace, the racetrack, the hospital. I know all of it now. His throat tightened. He swallowed hard. I'm begging you. Give me a chance. Let me make it up to you. Please. I looked into his eyes. Red-rimmed, bloodshot. He looked like he was falling apart, held together by one last thread. He stood there, begging, gaunt and broken, every part of him screaming regret. And I felt nothing. Like dropping a stone into a lake and not seeing a single ripple. The surface stayed flat, calm, untouched. It's over, I said. It's been over. His face went white. Clara. I'm standing here, I said, looking right at him, to tell you there's no going back. There never will be. My voice was steady the whole time. Flat, even, no warmth left. Nothing like the soft, gentle girl who'd always said it's okay. His face crumpled, little by little. Why? His voice rose, cracking, broken. Why are you doing this to me? I haven't slept since I found out. I barely slept on the plane. I came all the way to England because I knew I'd find you here. He took a step forward. I didn't step back. Do you have any idea how long I looked for you on campus? I asked everyone, your classmates, your roommate, your class rep, the advisor. No one knew where you'd gone. If a friend hadn't posted that photo of you in London, I never would have found you at all. His voice shook. Tears glistened in his eyes. Are you really that cold? Cold. The word rang in my ears, sharp and clear. I'd been about to walk away. My foot was already lifted. But I put it back down. Cold? I turned to face him fully. The streetlight hit me from the side, stretching my shadow long across the pavement, covering his feet. Every time you two fought, I was the one in the middle. I'd calm you down after you fought with her, and calm her down after she fought with you. I'd stand there and beg you both to stop, and neither of you ever even looked at me after. My voice rose, faster than I'd meant it to. That necklace? You promised it to me for 3 straight Valentine's days. Then you put it on her. You stood outside that restaurant fastening it for her, and I stood there with my hands clenched behind my back, shaking. Do you have any idea what that felt like? Ethan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. That day at the racetrack? You dragged me there to talk her down. She fell off her bike and you ran to hold her. She got in a fight and you held her while she cried. I got hit by a car, and you were too busy wiping her tears to even look. My voice started to shake. You two shoved me into a lamppost. My back hurt for 2 weeks, and I still begged you to stop fighting. Did I deserve that? Did I ask for any of this? Clara. You visited me how many times in the hospital? You sat there peeling apples, but were you thinking about her, or about me? Those guys pinned me down and covered my mouth, and you were in the next room. She got a tiny cut on her hand and you panicked. Did you hear me yelling for you? Did you? The last word came out as a shout. My throat burned. Tears finally spilled over. Ethan stood there, mouth opening and closing. He couldn't say a single word. I wiped my face and turned and walked away. Wind bit at my neck. I walked fast, leaves crunching under my shoes. No footsteps chased after me. He just stood there. 10 steps. 20. 30. He didn't say another word. I pushed open the door to my building. The stair lights flicked on one by one. That night I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time. Asher texted to ask if everything was okay. I said it was, we'd talked. He said good, told me to sleep well. I set my phone face down on the pillow and stared at the ceiling. The streetlight outside glowed through a crack in the curtains, a thin strip of light. I didn't know if he was still out there. I didn't care. When I pulled back the curtains the next morning, he was still there. Sitting on the bench across the street, no coat, shoulders hunched, hair wind-tousled. The bench was metal. He must have been freezing sitting there all night. He held an envelope in his hand, white, crumpled at the corners. I glanced at him once, then closed the curtains. When I walked downstairs, he stood up and took a few steps toward me. His mouth moved. I walked right past him. He didn't follow. After that, he came every day. He was on the bench when I left in the morning. He was still there when I came back at night. Always holding that crumpled envelope. He never came close, never called out. Just sat there, his eyes following me. Sometimes Asher walked me home from class. We'd walk side by side, and Ethan would follow 10 steps behind. Asher glanced back once. He does this every day? I said yeah. Just ignore him. Asher didn't say anything else. Just walked a little closer, hand resting on my lower back. One day the wind was really bad. I was eating in the cafeteria with Asher, and I saw Ethan through the window, standing under a tree, his sleeves billowing in the wind. He held the envelope down with both hands to keep it from blowing away. He was probably waiting for a chance to give it to me. I never gave him one. He still texted every day. My phone buzzed from morning till night, all from the same number. I never opened a single one. The notification badge piled up higher and higher. I didn't know what they said. I didn't want to know. One night I left the library late. Asher had left early for something. I walked back to my dorm alone. Tree shadows swayed under the streetlights. Ethan was standing at the corner. He took a step forward. I stopped. He stood in front of me, even thinner than before. Chapped lips, dark circles, skin pulled tight over his cheekbones. This, he said, holding out the envelope, hand shaking. Just read it. Please. I didn't take it. It's everything. All the things I did wrong. Serena and I are done for good. I have money, property, whatever you want, I'll. Ethan. He went quiet. None of that matters to me anymore, I said, looking at that pale, gaunt face. None of it. I paused. Just, let yourself move on. For your own sake. He froze, hand still outstretched. The corner of the envelope fluttered in the wind. Go live your life, I said. Then I walked around him and kept going. A few steps later, I heard something hit the ground. Soft, muffled. Paper on grass. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. Silence for a few seconds. Then I heard it. Crying. Low, ragged, held tight in his throat. Like something crushed and gasping for air. He must have crouched down, ugly and broken, the knees of his jeans scraping the grass. He tried to muffle it, but the sound was heavier for it, every breath wrenched out of his chest, raw with pain. I kept walking. My footsteps didn't cover the sound. Leaves swirled in the wind. Something brushed my shoe. The envelope. The white pages fluttered open, covered in tiny, dense handwriting. I caught a glimpse of the first line, Clara, I know I don't deserve you. The wind carried the pages away. I rounded the corner. The sound faded, buried under the wind, smaller and smaller. 3 years later. Spring in London. Cherry blossoms lined the streets, soft pink clouds on every side. I walked across the lawn in my graduation gown, my cap tassel blowing in the wind. Asher was next to me, taking photos. He crouched down to get the right angle, looked up, and said, "Smile." I smiled. He clicked the shutter. In the photo, I stood under the blooming trees. My hair was a little longer than 3 years ago, my jaw a little sharper. But my eyes were bright. Asher stood up, put his camera away, and took my hand. His hand was always warm. Always had been, all 3 years. He laced our fingers together and looked down at me. Any plans now that you're graduated? I said I wanted to bring my parents over for a while. They'd been asking forever. He said okay. Whatever I wanted. After the ceremony, everyone scattered to take photos. The lawn was full of laughter and chatter. I stood off to the side, holding my bouquet. Asher got pulled away for group photos. Then someone walked up to me. A girl from our old university, someone who'd sat behind me in class. She handed me a coffee and said, "Hi, long time no see, congratulations." I said thanks and took it. She hesitated, like she wanted to say something. "Hey, have you heard about Ethan?" My fingers tightened around the coffee cup for half a second. "No," I said. "What about him?" "He turned down the family business," she said, quiet. "Fought with his parents over it. Took one photo and left. No one knows where he went. His parents filed a police report, but nothing ever came of it." The steam from the coffee curled up against my face, warm. The cup seeped heat into my fingertips, not too hot, just right. I stared down at the lid. "He never tried to contact you?" she asked. "No." "Oh," she nodded, like she didn't know what else to say. "Well. I'm glad you're doing well, at least." She walked away. I stood there under the cherry trees, holding my coffee. It was hot enough that my palm felt damp after a while. A few cherry blossoms fell, drifting down to land at my feet. I stared at them for a minute. Soft, pink, resting on the grass. I didn't have any strong feelings about it. The memory of him, thin, crouched on the ground, crying, felt distant. Like an old photo tucked in the back of a drawer, yellowed at the edges, curled at the corners. You knew it was there. But you didn't want to look at it. Asher ran back over from the group photo, holding 2 caramel apples in a paper bag. The sugar coating glinted in the sun. "Here," he said, handing me one. "Happy graduation." I took a bite. The tart apple made me wince a little. He laughed and wiped a speck of sugar off the corner of my mouth. "Clara." "Yeah?" "We graduated," he said, standing close, looking down at me. His amber eyes glowed warm in the sun. "Marry me." Petals fell from the tree above, landing on his shoulder. He stood there, tall and steady, feet planted firm on the grass. Not stepping back. Not even an inch. I thought about a barbecue restaurant, steam curling in my hair. A lamppost digging into my back. Hot asphalt under my cheek, blood in my mouth. All of it felt far away. Behind frosted glass. You could make out the shapes, but not the warmth, not the pain. I switched the caramel apple to my left hand. I lifted my right and pressed my palm to his chest. Through his shirt, his heartbeat beat steady and sure. 1. 2. Yes. He leaned down and kissed me. Petals fell between us, pink and soft, swirling away in the wind. People laughed on the lawn. Someone yelled over here. A camera clicked. I closed my eyes, hands still pressed to his chest. It was spring.